Woo! Hi. So quite jolly to be here. I haven't been on any stage for quite a while, so I try to dress up well. So I'm no startup guy. I'm a 5G guy trying to sell 5G. So here in the picture, you can see one of the attempts. We were trying to persuade people that 5G is not as horrible. There's a beehive, and there in the background, you can see the 5G station radiating right to the beehive. And as a result, we proved that the honey turns out really good on the rooftop of our technical building. So, but of course, the horrors of 5G is not the essential problem we are facing right now. The fundamental issue is that consumers, my customers, they're not expecting too much of 5G. They need more speed, more broadband, and they normally do not expect any of the stuff normally been discussed in events like TechChill. So for the last years, one of the challenges and ideas what we are looking for is how to make demand more innovative, and in essence, how to support market demand becoming more innovative, and also how to be a decent member of innovative ecosystems. And I think this is a relevant topic for many of us, particularly those in Europe, because these days it's quite a usual practice to shout about things happening in China, shout about things happening in Europe, and there's always this challenge, can we as Europeans do something about it? So, of course, I do not know the answer. I will today share some of the nice and inspirational things I've stumbled upon over the last years while thinking about this. So first of all, when you think about ecosystems, there is this ambition of ecosystems, which of course comes from some real science, from natural sciences, from biology. And first things, when you look at ecosystems, you always notice incredible complexity of how do they look, starting from the sun and water cycles and carbon cycles and myriads of different sorts of networks, which links all these actors, like some friendships between mushrooms and trees and links of different tiers of predators, each other and keeping ecosystems in balance. We see sex and recombination of DNA as a fundamental driver of evolution and creativity in ecosystems. And of course, the fundamental outcome and the big factor is as a biodiversity. So the ecosystems that are not diverse are most probably not sustainable and not ready to adapt to change. But overall, the one big observation you can place here is that it's the change which is happening all the time. In natural ecosystems, it's incremental. And there's a very good question, therefore, where would you place yourself? If you would keep on with this analogy to the innovation ecosystems in business, who would you be? Do venture capitalists feel like sun that give the energy and money to the ecosystem, or probably as fungi, I don't know. But incremental is one thing that links natural ecosystems to innovation. My right-wing friend, that's why this book is on the right side of the slide, he presented me with a beautiful recent book of Mr. Matt Ridley, who is going very ambitiously all over through the whole history of innovation of recent centuries. And one of the things he is coming back again and again is that innovation is not sudden. There is normally no revolution, and there is incremental evolution of things happening, and starting from light bulbs and steam engines, there's always many inventors, normally even at the same time, building on the work of previous generations, and therefore one hope that Mr. Ridley gives in his book, and I would really suggest you read it, is actually that there's a place for everyone in this big picture, that our fetish of naming a single person, single super genius, super god who is responsible for all innovation is flawed, because this is not what is actually happening in innovation ecosystems. And I would really suggest you all to take an example from famous Beaver looking at the Hoover Dam and saying that he didn't build it, but it was built on his design. Then there's the other book, which gave me some great inspiration or actually many books, few books by Miss Mazzucato. I placed this book on the left side of my slide because it's much more left-leaning. And this, on the other hand, is the book who not so much talks about the happenings of individuals in the course of innovation. It more talks about gives some hope to the governments, and actually is trying to revive the idea that government also has some role in innovation process, and gives some really, it's probably the most notorious example of Miss Mazzucato's work is she brought about 130-something different patents that were needed or are enabling the appearance of iPhone. So she's in no way neglecting the importance of job of Mr. Steve Jobs, but she actually names all starting from touchscreens and internet and many other things, all these patents came about because of the government risk and government long-term investment in research, and therefore she is somewhat quite popular in the circles of OECD kind of people and is promoting the idea that governments should actually come back and do some mission-style approach and invest money and place some big targets. Mr. Ridley actually spends a whole chapter on criticizing Ms. Mazzucato's work. He is not quite a big fan of government intervention and intrusion, and I don't know what to do with myself because I like both those books, and I found some peace in this quite cheesy idea that probably normally in nature two big truths are normally they are against each other, and they still are both true at the very same time. And I believe that in the innovations ecosystem, there is a place for everybody. There is a place for government, preferably the government who is not trying to tinker with the innovation itself, but probably is supporting and investing and being a patron of all the things that could enable innovation. And there's place for you as well, because innovation never happens by a single person. It's more of a group work. So looking further for some inspirational things, before I go down a little bit deeper into our practical experience, is of course a little bit in history. There is one innovation ecosystem that stands out during the human history. That's of course is of Florence, a time of enlightenment, and so far probably many historians would agree that even the Silicon Valley is yet to match all the fundamental and grandiose achievements that were actually achieved during the time of enlightenment in Florence. And it's quite easy to use that same model. You can see that actually it wasn't just some strange post-medieval city. All the components of successful innovation ecosystem was in place already during the Enlightenment times. So first of all, there was a big shift in society because of the Black Plague, and it has reshuffled structures of society and made place for new markets. So disaster that is creating huge opportunities. There were kind of financial, semi-financial, semi-government style at those days. The Medici family, who was actually actively seeking for talent and actively financing the talent, that was actually happening. There was the quite willingness to actually support talent. The decoration of Sixth Chapel was given out to Michelangelo, who had no previous experience of doing this, just because it seemed that he has lots of talent. Mr. Super Duper Leonardo da Vinci is quite famous for spending many years in the mentorship of some older master, and culture of mentorship was present during the Florence. These two guys, Da Vinci and Michelangelo, hated each other very much, and fierce competition went on and was supported by society. And ultimately, the most strangest fact I actually didn't know, that they were changing the management team of what was responsible for decoration and building of Florence Duomo every 3 months, and actually actively seeking for new ideas. And all this all creates this innovation culture, and the results are global. And of course, the Silicon Valley, we can't not mention it. And I think the discussion of Silicon Valley is really relevant to Europe these days, because probably at the heart of Silicon Valley is very strong university and academical system. If you take a look at all the startups and successful IPOs that has been brought to us from Stanford University, you need to question why this happened. And then again, there is a set of factors, and probably most fascinating to me as European is this very aggressive stance of Stanford University towards bringing the students out into the startups, into securing professors' workplace or employment. If he goes out and sets up a startup and fails, he can safely come back. So there's a whole system that is trying to support that the ideas from your university go out as fast as possible and possibly fail. The most funny fact about the Stanford that I didn't knew actually, that's still up to this day, the largest chunk of the research money is still coming from the government, which is an interesting notion about because normally in the United States they like to claim about the land of the free and not such a strong federal government, until the fact that you realize that also even the holy Elon Musk is been a big receiver of government subsidies to actually support the development of his technology. So everybody is trying to do their part. So let's talk about something really hard for me as a guy from Riga. Let's talk about Tallinn, because of course we are neighbors, and we always are looking over the fence and being a little bit envious about things happening on both sides of our border. So Tallinn is probably a beautiful example of a specific breed, of a specific species that evolved in Estonia ecosystem. They have this name of Skype Mafia, and that's a beautiful example of how people or employees from a single successful or few single successful teams that have seen success are going out into the market and creating next tier of companies, next tier of success, and these again go out and again, and now this beautiful tree of life is growing, and that's also an interesting example how innovation ecosystem works. I don't know actually, is this an ecosystem yet in Estonia? I hope that. And I hear that also the universities are catching up, but probably the startups on their own, I don't know, will that be enough for Estonia? But I'm really happy for their success. Then there is our dear southern neighbor from Lithuania and Vilnius. They probably don't have such a beautiful startup tree of life as Estonians do, but recently, they have made a very big move, a very conscious move from the state-owned enterprise perspective and trying to be a part of innovation ecosystem from not a startup perspective, but a huge, rich company perspective like Ignitis, which is a public utility for electricity in Lithuania. They have set aside particular enormous fund for cooperation with startups in the Baltic region, particularly for innovation in energy. And I really adore that approach. Then Riga and our own experience in the country, and we are probably somewhat alike Lithuania in that matter, because there is a raging, ongoing discussion right now in the government about that, so to speak, in our ecosystem, innovation ecosystem in Latvia, we are lacking, so to speak, big species. There are no elephants and no whales in innovation ecosystem, and that's a problem because we need one. Because what we have noticed that some sort of or insufficient amount of innovation is not so much a problem of government, which is actually trying to do their part. It's more a problem of companies. The companies in Latvia are the ones who are not investing enough in research and development, and particularly the big ones. And in Europe, on average, roughly 3/4 of investment in R&D is coming from very large companies. And this is a problem we are trying to tackle now, because if things do not happen by their own, like there are no spurge of new startups, so the government might try to be involved and do some terraforming. And additional problem is very interesting, particularly on the digital side, because the scarcity of IT personnel is in our ecosystem, and innovation ecosystem is hardened by the fact that there's a lot of external, I would call them external predators in the analogy of ecosystems that are eating out all the available free brain. And in Latvia, as we speak, we have the highest salaries for IT personnel, which is of course not very, which is great for the employees, not so great for the innovation ecosystem as such. So therefore, Latvian government is trying to attempt kind of a conscious terraforming, I might call. So actually identifying the strong areas of our ecosystem and actually trying to patronage those and support, not to meddle with those, but support those. And quite recently, also quite happy to read is about the initiative of the government is again to do some conscious terraforming attempt in ecosystem, and starting from very basic building blocks is to spend out some effort to bring a computer to every kid in the country, either in cooperation with Google or Microsoft, which is, I think, well, I hope that in the long term or medium term, that this will prove as a right move, exactly from the actor like the government. How can you fundamentally influence the innovation system in the country? So let's talk about our practical experience. So LMT is a big company in Latvia, so we are conscious. We would like to be a decent member of innovation ecosystem here. So we were thinking, what's our role? What could we do? And as I mentioned in the very beginning, we have also a commercial problem. So it's not so hard to build a 5G network. It's not so hard to sell it as a basic broadband. But if you go to any telco event, you would hear about things like massive communication, low latency, ultra low latency services, and all the magic that might be brought to you by 5G. But of course, the customers haven't seen that, and they don't ask you for all this beauty. So therefore, we approach the again an interesting new practice defined by Professor Saraswati recently. It's called Effectuation, which is technically based on quite a natural biological thing, is trying to understand your resources and rematch and recombine them in the network of your partners. And we have consciously invested our effort to build many testbeds in Latvia and in Riga, actually, to meet with different kind of actors and fasten the exchange of, technically, to have more sex of the ideas in Riga. So we have friends, and we have launched the first 5G military test base that happened in Ādaži, next to Riga. We, together with Riga City Council, we have made a test bed for smart city in the digital heart of Riga. We have built a 5G laboratorium together with the biggest regional manufacturer of radio electronic equipment, and actually produced some beautiful 5G equipment, which is not done in China. It's actually done in Europe, and therefore being quite famous these days. We are setting up a cross-border autonomous vehicle testbed together with some EU research partners. We are cooperating with universities, and we have built 5G testbeds in both of our biggest universities and laboratoriums. We have launched the drone testbed because we do believe that mobile communications will be essential into managing beyond visual line of sight flight in the future. We opened up and entered the cooperation with many EU research and actually found new friends. So trying to network also on European scale, and actually that's a pretty new experience for us, but it actually has proved very rational and useful. And ultimately, even the things like TechChill and meeting in hackathon is, again, that same pattern, is trying to reach out and network and look for resources and look for friendships outside. And this does pay off, and all this knowledge of networking and finding new friends helps you deliver strange new products, unimaginable for a telco operator before. Like these days, we are involved in bringing together Latvian local industry in actually building up capacity for deploying offensive drones for the defense industry of Latvia, or actually we were first on the planet to deliver a decent contact tracing app for the customers, thanks to the cooperation of whole innovation and IT ecosystem in Latvia. So wrapping this all up, final few words is probably coming back to the natural ecosystems. I think the ultimate target of all the innovations these days in the long term should be saving our species from dying out, because dying out is something that species do in ecosystems, and our way of treating the climate probably is one straight way how to go out of the window. And of course, we can save, we can use less plastic and do all these other things, but in essence, the biggest benefits that are to be brought about innovation, starting from agriculture down to energy. And therefore, I would like to hope that we will not be between those 99% of the species that has died out until this moment. Probably we will cling on to this 1% for quite a while, because so as Mr. late George Carlin said, planet's fine, we have some problems. So good luck to you all, and let's be friends and let's network. Thank you.